everybody. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion in the garage. If you're watching us on Facebook or you're listening to us as a podcast, wherever that happens to be. And if you tell your friends about it, the more people we can get listening to the Court of Public Opinion. Pete and I will be very happy about that. Because we specialize in this little program to talk about the things that other people will not, cannot, or are maybe, I don't know, frightened to talk about with all this woke stuff and political correctness. See, we don't care. We just want you to care. That's my raison d'etre. Before we get into the stuff of the day, April the 4th, some of the things we remember the day for. Microsoft is founded as a partnership between Bill Gates and Paul Allen to develop and sell basic computers. Oh dear, what was it? There was the Altair 880. Anyway, this is going back to 1975. Now, I don't know how many billions, or perhaps it's even trillions of dollars. No, he did get a divorce, which may have cut a bit of a swathe through his personal wealth. But there's a story around that I think we should look at, speaking of Bill Gates, because he was one of those original founders of the Silicon Valley revolution, the high-tech thing. There's a big controversy brewing about AI, artificial intelligence, and how we may be best advised to put a lid on it. But I'll come to it later. But 75, Microsoft is founded. Happy birthday, Microsoft. Martin Luther King Jr., American clergyman, leader of the civil rights movement, Nobel Prize winner of 64, assassinated at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. He was just 39 years old. 1968 was the year. I remember it. I remember the story. I remember the moment. What else can I tell you? 1914, the film Serial. We probably wouldn't have anyone here who would have remembered or could remember The Perils of Pauline. I only remember The Perils of Pauline because I saw sort of, those old movies they used to put together about the greatest show on earth and the great moments of Hollywood and things like that. And I remember marveling at these early serials where they all ended with a cliffhanger. And all these people, including, what was her name? Pauline White, I think. The Perils of Pauline. Doesn't tell me here. But anyway, the film, the serial, was shown for the first time in Los Angeles on this day in 1914. But the remarkable thing was that all these people, no green screen, no trick photography, it was all real. They all did their own stunts. They obviously took their lives in their hands in the name of entertainment. But you couldn't top The Perils of Pauline, the cliff-hanging, amazing entertainment. Gee whiz, I don't know anything about her background or anything like that. It'd be worth looking into, actually, how she came to the film business. Napoleon abdicates for the first time in favour of his son. Keep it in the family. That was 1814. Carl Benz, the German inventor, engine designer, automobile manufacturer, Mercedes-Benz. He dies of bronchial pneumonia at the age of 84 in 1929. But before that, he did some wonderful, wonderful automotive engineering. Heath Ledger, the Australian-American actor, Brokeback Mountain, which I never saw, The Dark Knight, which I never saw, but I know my son did, or my sons did. Born in Perth, Western Australia. died in 2008. Heath Ledger, 1975. Ignatius of Loyola becomes the first senior general of the Jesuits. I threw that in because my son went to St. Ignatius. 1541 was the year, which is where the name comes from, St. Ignatius. Elon Musk buys 9.2% of Twitter on this day in 2022, making him the company's largest shareholder. He probably should have stopped at 9.2%. Anyway, a lot of these things in life are a slippery slope, you know. You don't know you're in trouble till you're in trouble. Speaking of trouble, 1884, a guy called Yamamoto. Yamamoto, you may have heard of him. Japanese World War II, Marshal Admiral and Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese fleet, who led the attack on Pearl Harbor and Australia. The genius, if you like, the military genius behind Imperial Japan. He was born 1884. He died in 1943. But, you know, I mean, a bit like going after the Americans going after Osama bin Laden. I read a book on the determination of Roosevelt particularly, but the generals generally, to get him for Pearl Harbor. And the intelligence and the number of people they put on the case to get him. They eventually, through clever intelligence, found him in flight. Don't know where he was going, but the coordination to actually find one man and shoot down the aeroplane in which he was traveling. It's an amazing story. But determination, wow, that must be the personification of it. 1943 was the day. It doesn't give me any of those details here. Robert Downey Jr., American actor. Charlie Chaplin, Iron Man, Avengers, born New York City, 1965. Not without trouble. He was kind of like part of that brat brigade. They all got themselves into various levels of conflict and trouble and drug abuse and whatnot. But he's a great actor, straightened himself out now. Fine example of what you can do. 1972, the first electric power plant fueled by garbage. So it just goes to show you, Pete, never throw anything away. That was in the United States of America in 1972. And Francis Drake is knighted by Queen Elizabeth I aboard the Golden Hind in England on this day in 1581. I don't think there's anything on the other page, but I'll kick myself if I don't look. Oh, yes, I've mentioned that one. Oh yes, here's one. I wonder why my wife included this. Amazon's Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos on this day in 2019 agree to a record-breaking $35 billion divorce settlement. Ouch. Well, as long as they both went away happy. I think that's all that matters. Speaking of happy, I don't think Harry's ever going to be happy, is he? No. Well, his father, the king, and he's doing a fantastic job, near as I can see from this distance. Not that I'm any judge of kings, but the point is, I think he is doing a great job. He's on a charm offensive in Europe, in Germany, where he spoke fluent German and won all the hearts and minds, I think, on the day. While he was doing that, Prince Harry was ranting and raving in London about the media's violation of his privacy. Well, public life, it's not what most people seek. In fact, I suspect most people sort of run away from it, shy away from it. But it does have its perks and lurks and privileges. People in public life are fair game, particularly in the media. Now, I've seen both sides of the coin over the years, and if you're smart, you take the rough with the smooth. It's not that I'm unsympathetic about Harry, it's just that, God, if the stove's too hot, get out of the kitchen. And don't keep coming back, metaphorically or literally. Harry's been on several of these privacy tours of the world. Privacy tours of the world. With all the bells and whistles and limelight and brass bands. It reminds me of, what was her name? The Swedish actress who said, "I want to be alone. I want to be..." Who was that? No, not Zaza Gabor. No. Marlene Dietrich? No. But anyway, she didn't want to be alone. You know, I think it's attention-seeking, in a sense. But I'm sorry, I think Harry's a phony. A phony. Now, I don't want to be anal, but when they had that filibuster the other night in the Senate, you know, it went from, I think it was 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning, I was interested in the line of Commonwealth cars. Firstly, it's amazing how many there are. And of course, not just in Canberra, because these people get picked up and delivered from every airport, wherever they happen to be in Australia, at, of course, taxpayers' expense. But here were these Commonwealth cars with their engines running. As far as the eye could see, outside Parliament House. They'd been there since about 11:30. All of those guys, the drivers, bless them, were on overtime. Triple time, probably. Triple time. And I don't resent that. I just resent the kind of philosophy that says these people can sit in there wasting everybody's time and the public money. And think, of course, that it's okay. Or worse still, think that they're saving the planet. Just another cost, they would say to themselves, I suspect. Just another cost, like the stupid climate bill that they were in there filibustering about in the first place, to achieve nothing. Except more expense, of course, for the public and higher electricity bills for everybody. But if you want to behave like that in public office, why don't you just get yourself home the best way you can? Call an Uber and pay for it. Call a taxi and pay for it. Why do you do that at our expense? Disgraceful. And of course the opposition won't say anything about it at all because they're in there as well. And speaking of Parliament House, people holding up signs saying, let me get this right, housing is a human right. Housing is a human right. Would you explain, or somebody explain to me, how is housing a human right? Housing is what we work to afford, to achieve for ourselves. And when we've got a small little house and, you know, your foot in the door or you step on the first rung of the ladder, you're always looking to improve where you live and how you live, to achieve for our families and ourselves. No one owes anybody anything, let alone a house. That's in my opinion, anyway. Sure, we will always have the old, the inept, the unlucky, and the sick. And society's got to be wealthy enough to provide for this. Perfectly right. Now, there's another quote. I'm fond of quoting Abraham Lincoln. The more help you give to people, the more helpless people will become. Now, mind you, that is in the context of America of the late 1850s, early 1860s, when everyone was struggling. It was desperate, hand-to-mouth kind of stuff. Civil war, for God's sake. There was no free lunch. There was no free ride. And what he was trying to do was to give people the encouragement to be self-sustaining. I would like to see politicians of today talking in those sort of terms, particularly to the kids of today. I'd like to see teachers with some vestige of that kind of not promotion, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Self-awareness, self-achievement. Set your sights out there sometimes for something that you're never going to hit. But my God, it's worth going for, even if you fall short. I really believe that. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back tomorrow. It's going to be a short week because Pete and I will take a break from Friday through till Tuesday of next week. But we'll be here until then. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordeux, and we shall return with the Court of Public Opinion tomorrow. Bye for now.